mission is MD5. My status is obsolete. My mission is to go to castle workers I must treat. There I met a boy, trying not to cry. He'd been badly beaten on his forehead, was a third eye. It's a biological advantage, I told the youth, and he seemed comforted by that truth. Of multiple opponents he could keep track. That moment changed him, there was no going back. Before meeting his Trioculus, trusted no one alive, but he confided in his faithful droid, Emdee. His bond was as strong as Luke's with 3PO and R2. But in the end, for the Emperor, there was nothing he could do. I calculated his bullies were a threat to his productivity. I taught him which parts of the body had the greatest vulnerability. He overcame his adversaries and the beatings ended. I assessed the situation to now be mended. The boy impressed Lord Overseer Eskel Twain. He was strong and had a calculating brain. He took me along with him to the Imperial Academy, and there he would prove himself a gifted prodigy. Before meeting his Trioculus, trusted no one alive, but he confided in his faithful droid, Emdee. His bond was as strong as Luke's with 3PO and R2. But in the end, for the Emperor, there was nothing he could do. Trioculus rose high, becoming Castle Supreme Slave Lord. And for the Grand Moff's plans, he was brought on board. I was trusted with the secret and task to install cybernetics that would fool and strike all and any doubters or heretics. Though the technology was untested and I feared for his health, Trioculus craved the promised power and wealth. I watched him use my lightning device during his coronation, then put a sonic weapon in Vader's glove to alleviate his frustration. Before meeting his Trioculus, trusted no one alive, but he confided in his faithful droid, Emdee. His bond was as strong as Luke's with 3PO and R2. But in the end, for the Emperor, there was nothing he could do. On Yavin 4, Trioculus was suddenly struck blind. In my scans, extensive nerve damage I did find. Trioculus in a rage threatened to dismantle me, but the Hodin found the answer that eluded me. The glove was slowly killing my master, we learned. Then in saving the Kibo seeds, Trioculus was burned. He had me build a replica glove and begin back to treatment. For his words said in panic, I harbored no resentment. Before meeting his Trioculus, trusted no one alive, but he confided in his faithful droid, Emdee. His bond was as strong as Luke's with 3PO and R2. But in the end, for the Emperor, there was nothing he could do. Trioculus was captured by Zorba and frozen alive. His rescue team recovered him and set to revive. But his body was taken away for destruction by Jedgar. Hissa could only see in grief and anger. I feel no emotions, but Hissa was relieved when we learned that G'dan was deceived. Trioculus' true carbonite block was in the Zorba Express. Restored the prophet's treachery he planned to address. Disra and Panaka, who for Trioculus